Alrighty, hello and good re-afternooning, every folks. Welcome to this whole thing. Basically, we were having issues with having technical issues a moment ago here, so hopefully that's all resolved now. Anyway, gonna be redoing the tier list to a degree here. So, basically, it's unclear whether there will be another patch coming, seemingly for corporate reasons. I don't know if that's the case, so please don't quote me on that. But I wanted to go ahead and redo this based off of a lot of new information that we've gotten in terms of how the mechanics work, in terms of how different things work, and just generally getting a chance to try out some of the more niche stuff now that there's finally been enough time to start getting into challenge runs and things. Not to mention to address, hopefully, a few of the issues from last time, wherein folks were saying that things were not as clearly defined as they could have been. The fact that Gremlins got forgotten, and I kind of remembered why after the fact, but let's get on with this thing. Okay, also, hello, Mr. Hutch. How's it going? Okay. First of all, apologize for the false start earlier. Apparently YouTube was doing some kind of update or something, but basically it just went and completely crapped out for reasons I can't explain. But let's go ahead and get this thing going. So to explain the tiers, first of all, and for the third time for those that have stuck around and hopefully haven't get annoyed enough to leave. So basically, elites are going to be the best of the best. Dependable basically means that it's somebody that may not be statistically overpowered, but is basically adaptable enough to just kind of function in any situation. Fun and effective means that a unit is going to be good under most circumstances and is just generally a treat to use. Good but means that they've got more downsides than... well, they've potentially got enough downsides to counter their good side, so to speak. And then the underwhelming ones are the ones that might have something to them, but just generally don't bring enough to the table to really, be something that you really want to go out of your way to get. And underwhelming, well, underwhelming is pretty obvious, and then unreliable are the ones that are straight up going to be a problem to bring along, and then don't let the door hit you on the way out are going to be reserved for the worst of the worst. So to go ahead and get this thing started, of course we got to start out with rogues, unfortunately getting the boot. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. You are a fantastic class with a cool set of profile pictures, but unfortunately, yes, they did not make it this time around. To explain again, because a lot of the newer folks missed why they weren't included in this version, basically, it comes down to their trap skills and AI type stuff. Basically, back in the PSP version, they were programmed to apparently specifically pick out specific tiles to use their traps on. The traps kind of sucked, but they were given... it was just a thing they could do. They had a lot of very niche applications. In fact, I found it particularly interesting that there's even an entire section in the official guide for the PSP version explaining how to scale up their traps. So, like, for example, if you stack up Prevailing Element, you can actually get some pretty decent damage out of their traps, but it's so specific that it's, like, firmly challenge run only territory. Either way, it's a thing that meant that they would have had to more or less rewrite all of the AI for all of the other characters. Like, I'm assuming they probably forgot about them for the most part, and then they were late into development, and they're like, well, everybody else ported over to the new AI just fine, but these guys refused to work, and we got to ship in like 3 hours. So probably something like that, but either way, that's why they didn't make it. That was the official reason anyway. It sucks, but whatever, all their mechanics are here in other ways. Like, I'm pretty sure their backstab attack is why we have pincer attacks. I'm pretty sure they just repurposed that entire thing into the pincer system, because basically what that one was just like, it was a check for if a unit is behind another unit and facing them in order to do that additional attack, and it seems like they basically took that same mechanic and just kind of reversed it. 150 hours in Miss Rogues. It's not ideal, but all things considered, like, Sporogmos is already pretty underwhelming. Steel, there's not really much of a reason for it, because crafting is guaranteed this time. Same thing with just all of the stuff that they would have stolen otherwise is just available. The one thing that's gone is the Reaver Ring, which there's already enough items that give you bonus swiftness, I suppose. And unfortunately, all the proofs are gone, so they specialized in having access to a lot of proof equipment, so that's out. Like, every part of the unit just would have been weird to bring over, supposedly. Just for the bandana? You know what? Understandable. All right, so I'll be back in 3 minutes to confirm the Valken Patriarch are alone in S tier. Oh, not quite, but we'll get there. Let's see. Not that they were bad, just that the programmer didn't prepare enough. Yeah, that's basically what it sounds like. It sounds like they got caught out, like that they just didn't expect that to come up, which is fair because, as I recall, Rakes had the same situation where just stuff ended up acting weird for rogues sometimes. Let's see. They could have just put the lobbers on the rogues. I mean, yeah, pretty much a lobber, heavy crossbow, but then it's like the heavy crossbow was their heavy weapon in PSP, and then this time around it's like basically you got the Vartan as the heavy crossbow guy, and the Dragoon can't quite keep up. But anyway, like crossbows in general, I'm not sure that even their stats could have carried them that far. It's possible the attack bonus on the class thing might have been a whole ordeal. I don't know. We don't have any hard numbers as far as attack values and defense values on the class itself. It's one of the few cases where a class actually determines much of anything, because the stat skew basically doesn't matter. It's mostly access and then that attack and defense score, which is a really minor thing that mattered in the PSP version. I'm not even sure it exists in Reborn, if we're honest. For those that didn't know, like, rogues had a weird niche edge over archers back in the PSP version, because they had a slight bonus in attack, which basically meant that they could pierce armor slightly better under a lot of very specific circumstances. Let's see, on the bright side, at least Fusiliers are great now. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the rifle Fusilier with lobber is, I mean, basically the old lobber and auto crossbow from the PSP. So either way, it's not great, but at least there's a reason, I suppose. Okay, so first thing, we're going to do these in no particular order, by the way. So, Dependable, Buccaneer, I mean, that one's it's just solid overall. While their defense sucks, it combines in pretty well with the fact that they've got 2 hyper armor skills. Basically just means that they're a dependable frontliner in pretty much every circumstance. I mean, every unit that can be a Buccaneer, including Vice this time around, is just going to be solid while using one. They're fast enough to make up for the fact that they've got low defenses, to essentially just keep re-upping their immunity skills. And exactly, very stylish. This is very true. Very true. But yeah, exactly. It's just a solid class. Not to mention the whole Speed Star and Evade being kind of one-offs, or rather being able to go against each other thing, is kind of overcome in this version because they get access to the Stinky set in multiple angles. Basically just meaning that they can use different types of different parts of the Stinky set to make it work. So, like, for example, Speed Star, like, full armor Stinky set with 2 axes or 2 swords on Canopus was busted beyond busted. It was just solid. Like, basically I had him running I think it was like a Fafnir and an Erasean, just kind of giving him the best of both worlds in that case. And interestingly enough, when you have both light and dark element swords, with the whole, like, either light or dark or stronger or weaker due to prevailing element type bullshit there, basically they both seem to be getting the benefit for some reason. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it was just something weird about those particular ones that I rolled, but either way, they both seem to be getting a benefit for whatever reason. Let's see. I'm only here to see if you have something new to say about archers. Oh, you mean the damage multiplication class? Yes, they're still amazing. Moving on. All right. Fusiliers, I'm going to put as fun and effective. The lobber thing is fantastic. The rifles drop off until you get the kind of the ultra post-game weapons. It's a lot easier to get a hold of the guns this time around, and not to mention they scale. I know they scale at least above 40%. I already have a snub fusel that's at 40%. I think it was a snub fusel. So their damage potential is kind of insane. So if you get their stats high enough, like for example with Habrim, they can lay down some seriously nice numbers and just completely avoid terrain. They're really, really slow though. That's kind of the main thing that's keeping them out of fully dependable there. That they kind of run out of steam after their bombs run out, and their rifles are just very slow to use. Let's see, I've seen the light archers are god tier. Yes, like archers are absolutely fantastic once you get there. That's the thing. Like, we'll get to that in a moment. I don't want to make people angry before we even get going, but either way. So Fusiliers, fun and effective. Next up, the Cyclops. Again, with the fun and effective. Their spells suck. They don't even need them. I mean, they're trying. You can give them a full loadout of tier 4s and whatever else, and they're going to use them every now and then, but all they need is their automatic skills to be absolutely oppressive. I mean, they're not exactly dependable for anything else, but they are very, very solid as far as those go. I personally like putting black powder on them just to give them like paralytic wave and stuff like that, so they can paralyze at even longer ranges. But there are those cases where they maybe aren't as dependable as some of the other ones. They might not have as much bulk, but they're just very solid and adaptable in most situations. I really like them. Most people dislike Cyclops. I mean, they're... I can understand why. You get into the Wind Temple and they make your turns just not exist. All your movement utility and overall economy is just history at that point. Let's say I like Cyclops when their skills actually activate. Yeah, I mean, based on the numbers, you really only need one stat card to have them activating most of the time. They can be really, really nice, and it's just kind of adorable to just somehow see this unit that just clumsily walks out, farts on somebody to destroy their stats, slaps somebody to prevent their ability to move, paralyzes somebody just by being nearby them, and then suddenly just throwing their hands in the air, calling down the Icy Armageddon, and it does 5 damage. There's just something really hilarious about that to me. But either way, they're fun and effective in my book. See, to be honest, all the high health monsters can only be so bad. I mean, yeah, they're spongy, and in this case, they're spongy and they're long range, and you can just make them hover. Due to the fact that stuff like the hovering ring, the cloud ring there, is actually kind of somewhat worth using this time around because of the resistances you can get on it. It kind of works, you know? Let's see, what kind of what version of archers do you prefer, Reborn or OV? Oh, okay. Are we talking specifically archers themselves, or are we talking anybody that can use a bow? I guess that's where that question starts. Because if it's anybody that can, let's see. See, high HP monsters can't be that bad. Golems hold my beer. Oh, fair point, fair point. Where's the golems here? Yeah, let's just throw golems down there. That's a good point. Oh dear. Golem sucks so hard in this version. It's almost impressive. It's almost impressive. Like, they're literally the Cyclops, but they suck worse. Like, they have the same bulk, more or less, unless the Gorgon Key activates, which apparently is like 10%. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that right. Let's see, I guess their handling of bows... Let's see. Appreciate the videos. Sometimes they're a bit too long. Cool to see live. Well, I know it. They get a bit too wordy. I apologize. I would get carried away rambling on about stuff sometimes. But yeah, no, with the golems, like, unless Gorgon Key activates, even their defense isn't that great. Their offense is, I mean, it's a total lie. They're functionally the equivalent of, like, Russia as a unit. Golems are annoying as enemies when they proc Gorgon locks. They take longer to kill tier. Yeah, pretty much. But in that same vein, though, their health isn't as high as a lot of the other bulky units, so you can still do the old standard of just poison them and walk away. It's 10% for your golems, 110% for enemy golems and POTD. Fair enough. But again, poison does not discriminate. So there you go. All right. So, next up here, we got, we're just going to do necromancers because I want to explain this one a little bit. So they're good. Okay. Necromancers are good. Their whole, steal your health to power my brain kind of thing. Fantastic. The thing is, like, they are more difficult to get than the Lich. And I've explained this a few times, but like, they're more difficult to get than the Lich. And basically the Lich can do everything aside from the undead support better. So they get the ability to revive undead, recruit undead, all of that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just, they are more difficult to get. To this point, I think I've got, what the hell does 16 days translate into in hours? Whatever that is. I still have yet to see a single Necromancer mark drop. To this point. We're 2 months past release here, I still haven't seen a single Necromancer mark drop. Like, I've recruited them from the elemental temples. I've not seen a single mark drop, and some people have told me that you can only get them from getting Cressida, which is, I mean, fair enough, I suppose, but again, it's just like the Lich does all of it better if we're talking in terms of overall practicality, which is why I'm putting Lich up here in Dependable. It's just they've got the range, they've got the adaptability. Going for something, they're actually one of those interesting cases where going for something like different versions of Apocrypha with nature power on there does allow them to do the whole elemental coverage thing in specific situations. Like, normally for most of the caster units, they can't take advantage of the fact that they've got an elemental weakness in their arsenal versus another guy, because they simply don't have enough push to do so. So it's usually more practical for them to just use their, their same element type ability. In their case, it's actually worth using, because, for example, the Dark Nuke is a lot more difficult to get a hold of than any of the other ones. But in their particular case, they can use the Apocrypha stuff at long range, using nature power. They can actually pull that off. See, hot take is the Liches are the best mage? I mean, yeah, absolutely. And actually, why am I putting them in dependable? They're, I would say, easily one of the top ones for sure. See, made Cresta Lich just because it's more versatile than Necro. I mean, yeah, like they do literally, they have the same access as Necro and then some. They still get access to most of that same necromancy stuff. They still get access to all of the same attack abilities. They're easier to get a hold of, surprisingly. They're just really solid. I mean, all you got to do is go into Pirate's Graveyard and get as many as you want. But either way, say Reflection is underrated by people in Reborn. I'm not 100% on that one, though. Like, Reflection has its uses for sure. Like, Reflection plus Swordmasters, I've heard that combination. Absolutely love that one. On the whole, though, I like using a lot of regeneration units, and personally, I just don't like. I see a lot of stars flying around on the map, so if Reflection is one of those, I don't want to go back and look into each unit and be like, oh, that guy's got Reflection, that guy's got Reflection, and try to figure out where all the healing went, you know? See, the fact that Necro can't use summons is just weird. I mean, yeah, they are directly a summoner. That is kind of weird now that you mention it. They summon the undead, but they can't summon the Hellhound. It's just too much dog for them to handle. Okay. Next up for fun and effective, just because the Griffin, incredibly high health, incredibly high movement. They honestly don't even need to attack stuff to be incredibly annoying. Picking up crit cards just to see them like bouldering stuff off of cliffs is just amusing. Easily one of my favorite units in terms of just you make them undead and you have them flap around and be just a gigantic pain in the ass. I love it. Let's see. So yeah, absolutely love that one. What do you guys think on Angel Knights? Like, what's the consensus on these guys at this point? Because to my mind, when I was going and looking at them, when I was trying to figure out all the draconic stuff they can do and whatever else, in many ways, they're kind of like the generic paladin. Like, they also get access to sacrifice. They get access to a lot of draconic stuff. Honestly, their AoE abilities, I've heard a lot of gripes about them, but they're really not bad. Unused here. See, like, I'm kind of tempted to put them under fun and effective at this point. Because, like, I've been trying them a decent bit. They're not spectacular in terms of being actual fighters, but, like, their songs and stuff, they're just fun to use. They're decently reliable. I mean, like, yeah, I'm kind of mentally flip-flopping between these two for sure. But basically, their undead thing, I heard it was terrible, but I've consistently seen the generic one that I've been using dealing 400 plus. See, there's so many good tanks that you could choose instead. I mean, yeah, that's true, and most of them can fly by that point. Like, personally, I would prefer, Tammuz over the generic Angel Knight, but that being said, I put them into POTD, and they just cleaned house like nobody's business. See, AoE spells easily do more damage once you hit 3 or 4 at a time, and Apocrypha is all pure elemental damage. Yep. So will this be uploaded on YouTube later? I got a dash and one miss it. Yes, it will be on the YouTubes later. So we'll get it up there at that point. But yeah, personally, I will say the charm move is near worthless. Their ability to undead or undead the undead had a very niche thing that Mr. Vale came up with, which was apparently for some of the fights they can summon infinite undead dragons. They can turn them into normal dragons and just kind of sit there freely recruiting infinite undead dragons. So there's that as a bit of a thing. Will you do a tier list of your tier lists? Can you really make a tier list that's just all F tier? Is that allowed? I mean, that feels like it's against the law or something. Would it be considered underwhelming just for the fact that it comes late game with so many steps to obtain them? I mean, this time around, you don't even need that many steps. Okay, we'll put them under good, but I will say they are more effective than I was giving them credit for last time. And yeah, AI control POTD, they clean house. Like, get a couple angels in there, just make a team of angels, and they will destroy the entire thing like it's nothing. Anyway, just for how late, we'll go ahead and put them there. I know personally, I was repeatedly AI re-rolling that first fight to get an Sanguine Rude for, like, I think the entire way to my daughter's school and the entire way back. Just like every time that there's a red light, just like reset it. So push 2 buttons, just kind of off to the side, have the button commands memorized at that point. Like, you don't even have to look at it. But anyway. So either way, that took a hot minute. It's not exactly the most accessible thing. Bit of a pain in the neck to get a hold of, but either way, they do the job well enough. Let's see, Gremlin's double S tier. Which, by the way, it turns out last time, that's why I had Vice like this. We almost got to put them up there. So that's going to be Vice as a Gremlin. I forgot. Originally, I had used that picture for Vice as an assassin as a joke, and then I forgot that for the tier list, I had basically just put them in the place of the Gremlin, because for some reason, every time that you try to Photoshop a picture of the Gremlin profile picture, it just refuses to accept that it's somehow one cohesive whole. I don't know why, but anyway, yeah, Gremlins with their... oh, sorry. Accidentally smacked the mic. Gremlins with their reset move are terrifying. So yes, potentially a very excellent kind of a soft lock, well, not even soft lock, a just stun lock unit. Interesting combination, by the way. Fairies and Gremlins. You have the Fairy keep boosting the Gremlin, and then you have a White Knight nearby them. Just kind of keep turboing. You can keep somebody permanently stun locked. Kind of an amusing time. Which actually, speaking of, we can go ahead and put White Knights in the Elite tier. Though, just to confirm, this is just because of Paradigm Shift, or not Paradigm Shift, this is just because of Velocity Shift and Paralysis Blade. This has nothing to do with them being tanky. I don't know where this reputation comes from of White Knights being tanky. They suck as tanks. They are upgraded Berserkers more than Knights. So is that a Gremlin or Vice? It's a Gremlin, but it's just going to be Vice as a Gremlin. He is a stand-in for the Gremlin. I couldn't remember why he was on this tier list, and that's why. The AoE Fear is very nice, too. Yeah, so, like, just Gremlins have so much good stuff going for them. If only they didn't die so easily, but they are an absolutely terrifying unit in the right hands. So we'll just go ahead and put that up there. Yeah, Vice is the Gremlin in this case. Yes, 100%. So Vice is the evil Gremlin in this case. Let's see, they have Rampart Aura, and Rampart Aura equals tanky. I mean, they block units. It's just their defense is nowhere near as good as the standard Knight is the thing. Like, the description for them is plain wrong, and I think most folks don't read past that point. Like, regular Knight I'm putting above them because they are so good from the start of the game into Coda 4 that they're one of the only units that can actually take, like, Coda 4 Knight Commanders and reduce their damage to 1. Yeah, they can functionally become entirely immortal. Bear in mind, their vitality has already been growing faster than everybody else. That's not major, but they have access to the best resistance gear and whatever else in the game. They get access to all of it, can wear it all at once, and at the same time get an ability that reduces all their damage, all incoming damage by 90%, and it only takes one skill card to make it basically happen all the time. Like, disgusting. It is fully disgusting. They can sit there and block forever. Their Rampart Aura, or not Rampart Aura, but Rampart Shadows got heavily nerfed this time around, wherein they only last 3 rounds, which I only found out while doing Stubborn Wretch, and that was, that was disgusting. But yeah, like Velocity Shift, they are fast Knights. They are fast and heavy hitters, and again, I would describe them more as a combination of the Knight and Berserker more than an upgrade of the Knight. So yeah, basic Knights, easily one of my favorites. Like, they are ridiculously good. White Knight surrounding your recruiter is great. That is a fantastic edge case for sure. That's a really good point. Next up, Knight Commander. Just, I mean, it's quite literally her job description. She better be an elite. again, it feels like she should be doing more stuff skill-wise, but access to Ivory Tower is honestly reason enough. Really should have put her up there last time, but I don't know. It feels like she's a bit lackluster compared to some of the others this time, but, still Ozma, so there you go. Let's see, White Knights make good coaches for weapon training. Also fairly true. Okay, next up, we are going to do Cockatrices. Dependable. I wouldn't say that their petrification is fantastic. They're good and dependable units, but they kind of lack in terms of defensive options whatsoever. Intimidating is nice too. That's true. I gotta say, has anybody else gotten that feeling that, like, Intimidate's one of those things that you always have in mind as, like, this will be a really cool game changer kind of thing, and then you just kind of never end up using it? Like, I gotta say, for Lands here, or for Hamilton, like, I get that same feeling of, like, he's a really, really solid unit. He's a directly upgraded knight, and yet I never want to use him. Like, I don't know. It just feels like, despite the fact that he comes in with completely, maxed out skills, despite the fact that he comes with upgraded knight stuff, the fact that he comes in with all these extra things, that he's basically a human juggernaut in many cases. Like, see, he's a better knight, but he also comes at the very end of the game and he's only slightly better. Like, that's the thing. Like, he has Intimidate, but at that point, it's like the knight already has Phalanx, Guardian Force, their weapon skill, and, whatever other thing you happen to need on them. Like, Intimidate is, like you said, good in theory on there, but, like, I never end up using him. I mean, I know that when he came in, Tammuz was dramatically more defensive than he was, and he was already way better kitted out. But anyway, let's see. Fill my jug with a pike so that everyone stops right next to him, still barely pulls it off. Yeah, like, I would honestly argue that Juggernaut does that whole thing better because he's not focusing on something else and he's got the movement to pull it off. See, Land's not equipping songs with his music box is a huge oversight. Oh, could you imagine? That should absolutely be a thing. Oh, man. That is a really solid point. Oh, why is that not a thing? That should totally be a thing. See, Land's very underwhelming. Gave him a hammer just to switch him up a bit. I made him into a lich. It just felt appropriate after March of the Black Queen. Warlocks. I've seen a lot of arguments for how good Draconics can be. At the same time, like, I don't know, it feels like you get them so late, I mean, the whole thing of getting Evade on there, getting Teleport on there. Like, Teleport is cool, except that you can teleport to that person's movement range, meaning that you can't save them from a situation where they're surrounded unless they've already got a means to get themselves out of it. At which point, you're basically having your Warlock in a dangerous situation in order to save somebody that probably may not need saving. Like, see, Warlocks are very niche, but they have very good use in specific situations. Like, that's the thing. They feel like a challenge run unit, See, allowing Lance to be a White Knight as opposed to Ozma would have been a good way to make him more usable. Wait a minute, he can't? I never even checked. He actually can't? See, Starfall exercising Undead made POTD a lot easier for me on the first descent. That's the thing, though. Lich can also do that, believe it or not. Lich actually gets access to Starfall and hits harder with it than the Warlock does. And in that case, I'd much rather just have the Warlock. Yeah, I didn't even catch that that Hamilton didn't get a chance to be a WK. What the hell is that? That's freaking weird, man. Okay, Hydra. Fun and effective, and you give them a flight ring. It is hilarious. See, Lich has very low HP, though, but see, that is why you turn Hamilton into a Lich. Suddenly you have an 1800 health Lich. He comes with unusually high health. It's a weird time. See, honestly, I treat Warlock as Golem Dragoons, but to make some maps less annoying, but then again, poison is usually enough. Like, that's the thing. See, Warlocks back in the PSP version, a lot of their stuff, like, for example, being able to talk to golems, could be transferred over to basically anybody, so you had a heavy hitter that switched to that's switched to a Warlock for a little bit, got what is it, like, control golem or whatever else. Suddenly they have a way to just, like they poison the golem, and then they convince them to join your team. That's a cool combination. In this case, you gotta always have that dude on hand, though. Yeah, poison does really beat pretty much everything. See, Lich is the best unit, especially once you get the Ogre Blade. It gets pretty nuts, yeah. Personally, I found it really fun, though, to take the Ogre Blade and basically take a lifelong caster and turn them into a Terror Knight ninja. And then I decided to go make them into a lightning element. I gave them Acid Rain, and then I gave them their... Or not Acid Rain, but I gave them... what the hell is it? Whatever the water move is, and then also combined it with the... combined it with Chimera. So they basically are this floating thundercloud. But anyway... So, like, ninjas are actually surprisingly good, especially in a challenge run context. But it takes a lot of explaining to explain why they're good. Like smoke screen plus a dodge item plus steel stance, and you have a very survivable unit, but it's not going to be quite as good as the knight. They've already dedicated half their skills to this. They've got good coverage in terms of, like, say, like bows and then swords at the same time. Gives them a good amount of potential skill options. They can potentially, hide up in places others can't through stuff. I keep wanting to call it Escalade, but, the terrain ignoring move. Water Walk is one of the most pointless things in this game. But, like, they're very useful in very niche circumstances. And again, if you take a caster and you Ogre Blade into a ninja, you basically just get a floating, like, death cloud. It's hilarious. Let's see. So you're a man of dragon culture. I mean, Hydras are just fantastic. See, Lich has 1 staff, 1 ring, and 1 dream. Interesting. See, what a coincidence, I did the same thing. The 100% stops help me so many times. Yeah, that's a surprisingly good counter move, too. See, view ninjas as crowd control like archers. Yeah, and the guaranteed poison. Like, guaranteed poison is, again, hard to quantify on a direct numbers basis, but they're really solid. What's next to Gremlin? Which one? Ninja Summon is good after Body Swap or 2. Yeah, like, once they get going, I think the ninja hits dramatically harder than any of the other summoners at this point, but they only hit 5 times. Let's see, ninjas are like rune fencers on PSP. They need higher stats. I mean, they're also kind of good at being tricky, though. They're good at abusing cards. They scale pretty decently. See, on the right side, you mean the knight? So Ogre Blade can only be used by generics, right? That is correct. Alright, next up, speaking of, where are they? Where are the Valkyries? We need to put them where they belong, up there in, I feel like they have to be in top tier. Like, that's the thing, I kind of brain farted last time. I apologize. I've had, back-to-back colds and sleep deprivation for months now, but... Let's see, need to see the full Gremlin picture. The profile picture looks weird. It's Vice with some knives, as Sanic. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely a Gremlin. Okay, so, Valkyries. Yeah, last time I put them as B for some reason. Too many elites? Doesn't matter. So, we'll fill out the rest of it in just a moment. But, like, with the Valkyries, though, I personally found myself constantly switching a lot of my endgame characters into Valkyries, because they can just do every role well, right? Like, they can be solid casters, they cast for free, they can be good support, they still have solid defensive options for all their gear, they have good weapon access. Like, they've got so much stuff in their toolbox that they can basically be whatever the hell you want them to be. I was comparing a basically out-of-the-box, like, out-of-the-shop generic Valkyrie, comparing with a just recruited Sherry, comparing with a Patriarch. And, like, the Patriarch was, I think he was like a Berserker or Warrior or something, whatever else, up to that point. Like, generally speaking, the Ninja had the worst in terms of their overall casting stuff. Valkyrie was maybe 20-30 points behind Sherry for summons and things. But still, that's nothing. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that barely matters. Not to mention they were casting more often, so overall they still ended up doing more. They had defensive options, so they weren't being targeted. They were just really good at being basically everything. Then I was doing challenge runs, and it's like, wow, short bow and shield Valkyrie with instills and stuff like that is pretty fantastic DPS. Like, when they hit on elemental weaknesses, they are ridiculously good. Let's see. Arcade is the backbone of my army. Yep. Also, not to be underestimated, they are a caster type that can use the Ogre set. Oh, they can actually use the full thing at this point, right? Good point. Let's see. Any melee unit with Meditate is strong. Even Prince is surprisingly strong. Yeah, and not to mention with Meditate and with having Conserve MP, they basically can just summon one turn, chain into a finisher, chain into another summon. Like, they just like keep bringing it over and over and over and over and over. They are so good. Let's see, did an Ogreblade Terranite into Valk, a lot of survival and mean magic. I think the only problem for me was lack of engulf. But at that point, you might as well just have them run up and get close. They have the armor options to make it work. Like, something to pay attention to in the endgame is Peregrine Mail. Or was it Falcon Mail? Whatever else. The wind armor. Has anatomy resistance on there, and you get them pretty often from POTD. So you can be running around like, I think it was like 16% people resistance under all circumstances, and it just shrugs off even Knight Commander bosses. It's pretty great. Let's see, I think Valk's real power is spamming finishers. They can spam everything is the thing. Like, they can spam summons and finishers and everything else just back to back to back. Let's see, Spear's late game range and not boosting spells making me switch to Sword and Board for Valk. Yeah, true. Seeing the Curse Spear go into Pike was a bit of a letdown. Got to be honest. Like, I miss my Peppa Pike being my 1 to 2 range spear for the end game, but so yeah, they never have any downtime. Yeah, like, that's the thing. They just get like, they just roll and they keep on going. It's great. Okay. Cleric, I would say good, but like their offense drops off past like chapter 2 or so. They're a good support. They do the job well enough. They can get rid of their own debuffs. I mean, they're just solid overall. I think a lot of times they end up getting kind of underestimated because folks will kind of see them as like the MMO healer, like they're there, like, you know, just like DBZ laser beaming the health right back into somebody, and their whole thing is more just triage, that they're supposed to get somebody out of the fight so that they can get fully healed instead of being the one that just keeps them alive in the middle of it. So they do just enough to keep everybody going, and they do that job particularly well, though the lack of having specific healing abilities outside of ease was a bit of a downside this time. Like, I remember back in PSP, you had those cases where you could specifically snipe out particular debuffs rather than relying on ease, so that makes them a bit more unreliable for debuff removal, but debuffs are also far less of a thing this time. Let's see, Boon of Swiftness with Conserve is also great. This is true. Let's see, Valks have so much offensive endurance, no other melee matches. This is also true. Let's see, once I got heal 4 and major heal 3, Cleric became a much higher tier. Yeah, like, they're good, but they're always going to have like a little bit of a gap. If you have the high tier abilities, their gap is going to be how much MP they cost. If you're running a lot of the lower tier stuff, it's going to be the effectiveness that you're kind of running out on. Eventually you want to sacrifice having Exorcism on their list at all and just replace it with a Purification Staff. They can parry, which is good. I mean, I kind of want to put them up to fun and effective, to be honest. Like, they always have a downside, but they always have enough upsides that they've been a mainstay for the majority of the game, in my party at least. Let's see, what exactly does the spell remove? It doesn't negate card buffs or skill buffs. The spell gets rid of if somebody is running, like, Strengthen or something. When would you see that? Like, it gets rid of Instill. Gets rid of Instill, gets rid of Boon of Swiftness. I'm trying to think what other buffs they actually ever use. Dancer... No, even Swordmasters don't use their action buff, or use their, like, physical buffs, so... I don't know. But yeah, it does seem like a waste most of the time. See, when you have 3 Divine Knights and Valk's able to heal, the Cleric is just there for the Exorcism and the Resurrect, and for both I can use items. I mean, that's fair. Usually I keep them around as a just kind of general support. Like, I usually run one full heal, 1 salve +1, and then 2 blessings on automatic teams. And they just sort of take care of themselves, but the Cleric is usually just there as the extra push somebody needs. They're just kind of there to buff out problems, you know? Let's see, Hammer, let's see, good idea. They don't need stat charms at all, really. This is... Hang on, what was that about? Let's see... Oh, yeah, the Valkyries. Okay. Next up. So, for Ranger... After testing around with them a little bit, I'm still feeling they're kind of underwhelming. They're pretty solid in terms of overall, like, physical damage. but they've got nothing else to them. There's that the kind of edge case of, you know, back attack into a pincer. His version of first aid feels kind of worthless in my eyes. What do you guys think? It's like, has anybody found a case where they're looking at the ranger and it's actually something other than, hey, look, a shittier version of that thing, you know? I say Jiggler plus Lobber Ranger is better than a Fusilier. I mean, for the Lobber, yeah, absolutely. Out of curiosity, have you gotten, like, the end game long guns or anything like that? It's like, I mean, he does definitely do great in terms of being the Lobber guy. Like, the double Yama is something I've seen come up a decent bit. Like, double Yama, Wasp Earring, basically just turning your shots into straight-up grenades and all that kind of thing. So, frankly, it's hard to get 3 units focused on one area. There's a lot of room for fun and effective. This is true. This is true. Let's see. Rangers feel inferior to ninjas. Like, it feels like he can be the Fusilier, but like he gets the Lobber, but he doesn't get the gunshots. He can use the Jiggler like the Archer, but he doesn't get the damage multiplication. So like he has the stats to go and back it up. But like I'll say this much: when I was doing all of the tests for Ranger, I was originally thinking the same thing of like Jiggler set, you know, into something else, and then started realizing like, well, technically, I can take the Brimstone Bow, I can give him, say, like, the Stinky set, make him into an Archer, and then suddenly, instead of, like, hey, he does, like, let's say 900 damage with the Jiggler, that's kind of neat. Instead, it's like, oh, he does, you know, 500-600 damage with the Brimstone, but then also 1,200 with, you know, ups it to 1,200, ups it to 2,400, you know, ups it to 3,000 with Instill, Double, Tremendous, can guarantee it with Eagle Eye. It's like, at that point, you just kind of, the whole Archer momentum thing is insane. So I heard WS scaling for bomb caps at 90, so with Earring single Yama and WS you don't need the second Yama. Oh, well, that's a bummer. I mean, fair enough, I suppose, just kind of a bummer. They need Engulf or something to give them more utility. The way they are right now feels like they're incomplete. Yeah, like, Ranger feels like, let's see, Rangers have some of the best stats for the Snapdragon, but you can't Snapdragon Vice, so I mean, I assume you're using a Snapdragon on them, in which case, sure. Let's see, if Ranger had 6 moves, it would make sense, but yeah, exactly. Like, it feels like the Ranger takes the worst half of several different classes. Like, he takes the offensive side of the ninja, like it was pointed out here, but none of the defensive side. Takes the gun and bow of the Archer and Fusilier, but none of the actual shooting skills. Takes the weapon axis of the warrior, but then also throws away a good number of them. See, Engulf not working on ninjutsu feels like a crime, though. Fair point. Come to think of it, I'm trying to think if there's anything that has spell range up that they can potentially use. It's kind of a bummer that the Lord doesn't get access to that, actually. Like, for some reason, they always made the Lord like the anti-ninja, and I don't know why. See, Ranger can kill Ravenous with a single bolt. Possibly so. See, Ranger's good to upgrade to Hangman. Ouch. GK said range bonus applies to bomb 2 if you want to forego slight weapon skill. Interesting. I didn't know. Wait, I didn't know you could get stats to affect them at all. That's an interesting one. Huh. Gonna have to give that a bit of a shot. So, what's the consensus, though? Are we saying, like, underwhelming or good but, or what then? Like, to me, he's kind of, like somebody said above there, like, he feels half-baked. Like, they just sort of forgot about him and just put out whatever was there. You know what there's no unique ninja unit? Yeah, I guess outside of Night of Lotus, there really isn't one, huh? Let's see, good but underwhelming. Runs around using items more useful than the likes of the Warlock or Ninja. I mean, unreliably dependable. Alright, fair enough. Okay, so we'll say he's got enough, like, weirdly specific niche builds to stick with good but okay. Alright, dependable. I gotta say, after doing way more stuff with Berserkers, they're going into dependable. Like, their stacked up damage goes up so quick. When I was trying Stubborn Wretch, basically one-shot Vice with a frickin' hand axe. I think it was like one Fizz card, one crit card, the hand axe. I think he was going Wind on Earth in that particular case, but it took like one Berserk and Sanguine to do like 600 to the guy. Basically had very little going on in that particular one, and then I just figured, what the hell, let's try the Berserker stack, and yeah, he's fantastic. Vice and Farampa, is Farampa Death Pit tier? Ouch. See, wish Ranger had tremendous shot. I wish. See, I feel like Ranger needed, for example, like Nature's Whisper from the Shaman, you know, kind of give them more of that Ranger vibe. Needed some Empower skills or something. Like, he's the Ranger. He's supposed to, you know, be the nature guy. I know he's basically a shitty assassin, but still. Either way. I really loved what One Vision did with him, giving him the plot teleport and stuff like that. See, one thing I never got is Sanguine Assault skill only makes sense with Berserk, otherwise feels like a waste of a slot. It's very niche. It boosts in a way that is lying, as I recall. Like, somebody was saying that the actual multiplication takes place later in the formula, so it's especially good for stacking. So, like, Mighty Strike plus Sanguine plus Berserk on Lord. Plus, what else could we stack on that? I guess Dragon Slayer or something like that. Like, that should easily max out the damage cap without a weapon skill equipped. Just get him Assassin, clearly. Absolutely. Let's see. One fun Ogre Blade of Love is Fearful Impact, Berserk, Vicinaire, Berserkers, Stun, Fear, Giant Damage. Very true, very true. Although, personally, like, Berserker plus the friggin' Dragon Fang is just disgusting. The thing has such high odds of poison that you pretty much don't even need the guarantee on it, although you can combine that with the Warrior. Which, actually, speaking of Warriors, I'm putting them into Dependable this time. One thing I didn't consider last time is just how good off-element finishers are. So, paradoxically, Warriors have the best, bar none, elemental coverage in the game. Just because of the fact that they can reliably use any weapon on either hand. Like, two weapon warrior is basically, again, best coverage, bar none. That they can be one element and they can effectively get almost all of the rest of the elements on their other weapons. It's incredibly solid. Like, for example, something I was running for a while was like Sword and Axe. Underwhelming. What? I mean, they can guarantee stuff, they can ignore parries, like, just the fact that they have effective finishers versus potentially every element type on hand, plus they have their AoEs on any one of those finishers, like, they are the premier finisher guy, but at the same time can also ignore parries and things like that. Has good stack growth. I mean, stack growths are kind of whatever in this game. Honestly, a couple minutes of collecting charms and POTD in the end game, and you've made up for any stack growth throughout the entire game. It kind of just stops being a thing later. See, soldiers best exploiting weaknesses in melee. Not just melee, they get a lot of range stuff too. Like, for example, dagger and hammer. You've got a pretty long range warrior there. Let's see. Does the offhand weapon element apply to the finishers correctly for offhand? That's the thing. Basically, the finishers can be seen as just an entirely different version of spells. Like, with spells, they have to be the same element. If they're the same element as the caster, they get a bonus to that element. In the case of finishers, they're kind of counting as their own kind of unique thing. I believe somebody was calculating that, like, for example, if you're using the same element as a melee weapon, it's something like 10% bonus. If you're off element, it's like 30% versus the thing that you're targeting if there's an elemental weakness involved. Meaning that if you're constantly swapping between effective methods of attack, you're getting like a 30% bonus on top of whatever the hell you're doing. Potentially just being a absolute beast in a lot of situations. So it's not necessarily that the weapon itself has to apply any particular thing. It's just a list of finishers that you unlock by having it on hand. Let's see, high dependable, really consistent skills in the auto victory with a team around them. Yeah, like, especially like vigorous attack into that Berserk, Sanguine, Dragonfang Berserker there is guaranteed poison just on everybody. It's great. Alright, everything fits into Elite, seeing as the game is too easy on account of enemies not status bombing. It would be nice to see those statuses come back. At this point, it sounds like there's corporate meddling involved. I don't know if there's going to be... I'm assuming there's going to be at least one more patch. They mentioned that they already made the patch. It's just not getting out. I don't know. I don't friggin' know. Let's see. Anyway. Next up, we'll say Dragoons. We'll say good butt for Dragoons. Same reason as before. It just feels like they're outclassed by everything, you know? It's like they can exploit stuff with ranged attacks. If you have somebody that's already been training as an archer up to that point, if they've got good dexterity as just a natural thing on them, then they can make the crossbow work. Otherwise, they're just not going to be doing too much. If you have access to, if you have somebody that's already been a good attacker, you're dealing with a lot of monster units, then it can be good. They can stack their banes and everything else. But still, though, like, it just feels like poison pretty much outdamages them most of the time, you know? See, outside beasts and dragons, I feel like worse warriors. I mean, they basically are. They've got better gear access than warriors in terms of just, like, having better higher-end equipment and stuff. Osmond makes Dragoons obsolete. I mean, I feel like poison makes Dragoons obsolete. It's just, even ninjas make Dragoons obsolete because just poison arrow and the thing's already dying, you know? So yeah, they're necessary mid-game, but late-game they're meh. I mean, even mid-game, again, just concentration plus poison. It's basically 100% around the mid-game. Like, they can make a more effective push against a lot of heavier units, that's for sure. But, you know, they've got a lot of downsides. Okay. Next up, Terror Knight, definitely dependable. Almost want to put them into Elite there. What do you guys think? Like, very top tier or almost top tier for the Terror Knight? It's like they do one thing, take off Dragon Scale. Poison doesn't discriminate. Let's see, it's rough too because Dragoon competes with Valk. Yeah, that's not a fair competition at all. Terror Knight Elite. Fair. Alright. Just because, yeah. Claymore plus Fearful Impact. Just nothing survives that. Elite with Evil Deeds, but why though? You can put that on anybody. Okay. Let's see, Dragon's Bane, that action hitting 2k plus is nice to screech. This is true. This is true. Let's see, their slowness holds them back from Elite. But usually they only need the one hit, and then everybody else finishes off whatever they death touched, you know? See, they'll carry during the story, I think, for TK. I mean, they are definitely slow. They're very slow. But like, especially around this point, the fact that you've got so many units that gain access to Paradigm Shift, the fact that you've got, like, fairies that can instant turn reset, the fact that their Lament doesn't actually slow them down, so you can actually go for a lightweight TK that's just spamming Lament the entire time. You can actually make a quick TK. I mean, they're really, really solid. Lament is so dang literally free this time around. But yeah, Fear plus Breach is just... They're the premier can opener, like Conan's saying. Like, they break anything. I mean, like, Terror Knight into Archers is so dang busted in many cases. You know? Say at endgame, you could probably just run Hobrim as a TK and not care about the RT. This is also fairly true. Very, very, very true. Okay. All right. So next up for underwhelming, we're going to go ahead and say the Octopus. It's got some good moves. It doesn't have the stats to back it up. It doesn't have the movement to back it up. It needs particular skills to keep itself running. It's just going down there. Let's see, Lord probably needs Meditate as a 4th skill for the Berserk. Let's see, Berserks, Mighty, Sanguine. These cost a lot of mana. If not, double attack would be funny. Well, I mean, they could just go ahead and set up with, like, a fruit beforehand, you know? Because technically, you set up the one round while they're getting close. They get in there for the second one. Could be something. Okay. But yeah, we're definitely stacking in terms of high-end units here. I think we're going to maybe... Do we want to move the Gremlin down to dependable just because of defense? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, did anybody else get a hold of Deneb and think that the Witcher was pretty unreliable or pretty underwhelming? I know I can't be the only one. So you did notice that all I could do is collect cards and bash stuff with my shield, waiting for a good time to use while the rest of the team wins the fight for me. I mean, if it works. Like, Deneb is good. I'm just saying in terms of her class. Like, it feels like Deneb is better as, like they're saying, Shaman, Lich, or anything else. It's just Magic Time isn't as good as it once was. Like her... Exactly, Mr. Vale. Hi there. I mean, just randomly figured would try and redo this thing on stream instead. Was it honestly incredibly burned out after like an hour-long work meeting, so... Alright, Deneb felt as useful as an enchantress, so like that's the thing. They feel like... The Witcher feels like it's not worth the effort this time around in my book. Just because spellcraft... So somebody was saying that spellcraft is only doing like 15% or something these days, which I guess sounds about right, possibly. Either way, it just doesn't feel like she gets the massive push that she used to, you know? But, like, it feels like most of the other classes do better for her. Do I know and send a messenger to my house and notify me in 55 minutes into the stream? Well, at first there was a lot of technical issues, and then I wasn't even sure that there was going to be a stream, and then there was, and then I had to take the dogs out. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I apologize. It's also getting recorded and uploaded and all of that kind of business. Let's see. Strongest gives magic attack to the whole team. This is also true. And gives free MP. Has a bit of an extra on that. Okay. Let's see. Maybe if you use RP and make her a frontliner with Whip, she AoE charms. Yep. That's the thing. Kinky Witch is actually a very solid build. So Whip and Armageddon on her is really strong. Just like there's a few moves that are kind of neutral scalers, as I like to call them, and Armageddon's one of them, and that works incredibly well on her in terms of just kind of having a good magic and physical split, but it's, her defense is a total myth. It doesn't exist at all. I mean, again, I literally just was making her that whole thing as a bit of a, you know, haha, you know, Kinky Witch thing. Which is like a grease string, full stripper set, whip, the charm move. You know, they were really getting into it. Let's see. I guess any caster that doesn't get summons is disappointing. Not necessarily. That's the thing. I made her into a fire witch there. Her fire AoEs hit really hard, but I don't know. It didn't feel worth it compared to any of the other casters. Like tier 4 AoE, whatever. On something like an Enchantress with Conserve RT was just, in my book, it felt a lot better being able to use it more often rather than the minor bonus that she gets, you know? See, Mouse AoE Disarm on wind spells, for example. Interesting. Stinky Witch. I mean, yeah, you could make that work, sure. Let's see, different elemental spells is the only thing I miss. Yeah, I really miss the stuff like Quench, for sure. Like, it always kind of gave me that whole feeling of, like, the whole, like, damn it, I'm not a doctor thing whenever the Water Wizard broke out Quench. Like, they're trying. They can only conjure up some Gatorade, but it's worth a shot, you know? See, G-string, Grease-string finally understand the joke. I mean, that's actually a bit more of the joke than I was thinking. I was thinking more like Grease-string, like, haha, here's this lube ring. But anyway... Her passive is to boost both spell hit and power is amazing, though. I mean, true, she does do okay with debuffs, too, just because of it's kind of like built-in, upgraded concentration, more or less. So, are we ever going to get a Triangle Strategy or Felseal playthrough? You only talk about them, but never upload videos. Okay, so... That's the thing. I've been sitting on, like, a 5-hour-long video of Triangle Strategy for months, thinking whether or not I should actually put that out there or not. Because honestly, a lot of it was that no camp run, and it added no challenge to the actual run, and so the entire thing just became like, man, here's how the AI broke again. Here's all the times when the plot did nothing that mattered. Here's some kind of shitty writing. Like, it was a lot of that. Felseal, though, would gladly, I would gladly do any of those, to be honest. I really like the intro to Triangle. It's just everything past the stuff that was in the demo, where it kind of starts to fall apart in my book. But yeah, I would gladly... I was actually planning to do Felseal and XCOM 2 and stuff like that. Is Felseal good as a TO fan? If you're also a Final Fantasy Tactics fan, yes. Absolutely. It is by far the best counterplay circus I've ever seen in an SRPG. But bear in mind, you're going to have to use some creativity on your builds. It's a really good game. Visually, it may be weird at first, but there's honestly a lot of like nice little details going on there that I really enjoy. But yeah, it's really more about the weird builds in that game, and it's just a treat. It's nice having your generics, for example, like you make generics out of people that you know, and then they show up in cutscenes. Like, I found it funny that my wife and I were the first ones that I made, and we're just having dinner in the background of a cutscene, you know? So it was just fun. But yeah, I really love Felseal. It's such a nice, chill game, you know? And then you get those moments where you completely break stuff, where it's like, well, let me go ahead and get these turn reset units, let me go ahead and get 5 Phoenixes in here and just nuke the entire map. So we'd love to see a Felseal run. The people are not from enough of that gem. Okay. I think we'll do Felseal next, then. I would love to do that. The class system, mixing, matching abilities in Felseal is incredibly fun, better than FF Tactics with non-slick classics of the genre. The writing is a Matsuno level or close. This is true, and I have to say they have really fun takes on a lot of stuff. Like, for example, the Lord exists. The Lord essentially looks just like Alphonse from Night of Lotus, but then also basically has the same expression of like Denim from Lucht. But then at the same time, they're like, the whole thing of, hey, they can equip everything is taken to the next level because they just show up wielding siege equipment. So this dude's just like, yeah, I'm just going to attack that guy with a cavalry charge. Let me just pop this ballista out of my pocket. It's so good. I love it. Like, see, I know I mention it every time, but seeing stuff like, for example, the final tier elemental ability is just being stuff that you'd expect to see from other games. Like, the final tier lighting ability is just somebody getting friggin' airdropped by Zapdos. It's so nice. Let's see, chances of another TO or Ogre Battle game after Reborn's release. I think it's pretty high. I have a feeling that it might... Okay, this is going to be a weird take, but I have a feeling if they do that, it might end up getting a different director, though. Because it feels like in the background there must be something going on, because, you could tell through the interviews that there was maybe some contention going on between Matsuno and the others, probably on account of the whole, hey, let's go, like, delay the shipping date in order to go remake every sound in the game kind of situation. The guy's been kind of notorious to work with for a while, but, suddenly there's this weird split of, like, he was mentioning that he wants to be done with it. His every time somebody asks about patch 1.05, there's this whole thing of just go contact customer support. I've got nothing to do with it, you know. So that kind of stuff. From Mission 3 Remastered. Oh, I would love to see that. Let's see. Anyway, okay, so let's finish this off here. Okay, so Unreliable. Who the hell do we even put for Unreliable? I feel like just for plot reasons, we have to put Warren into Unreliable, because he seems like he's about to get consumed by his dementia any day now. He's clearly lost track of time entirely by the time you find him in Palace of the Dead, and the only unique thing he brings to the table is the ability to depetrify himself. I have a feeling that there's some scary stuff to think about there. Either way, you're not really building a team to deal with Warren there, and I still like that theory of him being the ultimate bad ending of the game. Okay, next up, man, these things are so tiny you can barely read them. Patriarch, Elite, top of the Elite, the best spellcaster in the game in my book. Frickin' hyper armor, plus the range, plus the poison daggers. Off-element daggers in the hand of a Patriarch are actually really, really strong. So consider that as an actual option. Like, even if you set them to AI, off-element daggers actually will essentially allow them to cover different elements very effectively. So So there's that. Priest, fairly underwhelming. They basically are just cleric, but they get access to Spirit Surge. Lose access to Resurrect, I believe. Swordmasters are... Let's see. I'm going to start off putting them in underwhelming just because, like, everything they do seems to be kind of slow, you know? Willing to hear some arguments aside from combining them with Lich. It's just, they need a shield option, you know? See, any truth to the rumors that after losing his mind in the Chaos Gate, Witness Protection changed Warren's name to Hugo and moved him to Platinus to begin rambling about bridges? I mean, I'd believe that lore. That sounds absolutely fun. Is Awilius being used for Priest? Yes. It's unique to her in one vision, so that's where we're going to use her for that. Reptile summoners are insane. Been using a matriarch and she's a glass cannon who's occasionally invincible. Yeah, pretty much. Not to mention, because of that, they constantly get targeted and waste attacks. Swordmasters are fun. I agree. I definitely agree that they're fun. I don't know about the effective part. Like, they hit hard, but it feels like their main gimmick is one-on-one fighting, and you really don't want to be doing a lot of that. Alright. See you there, Elward. Thank you for stopping by. Let's see, if they release a Triangle Strategy 2, would you buy it? They made Octopath Traveler 2, so it's promising. I mean, if they bother to actually finish it this time, sure. Let's see, Priest doesn't even get Mother's Blessing, F tier. Fair enough. I like the Luck Jedi. I mean, again, they're good. Just, I don't know. Their weapon options are so freaking limited. I mean, even, like, the Makwahatl, their best weapon, doesn't even... It's not even much of a thing in this version. See, they basically are AoE Basin of Time, Aryan Plume, Debuffer. I mean, yeah, it's weird that they're buffed, but it doesn't feel like they're much stronger, is the thing. See, anytime Preempt and Mighty Strike proc, I use the crit skill, Hobram gets ignored. And that's kind of the thing, ain't it? We need an open world tactics game? That's RuneScape. Isn't that what Wakfu and Doofus were? I have no idea what those are. Would be cool when you do Felsi, you can make TO characters since you can customize your units. Oh yeah, I know. I have Alphonse and Eleanor in my main file for that. Battle Brothers? Oh, I freaking love Battle Brothers. Man, just that whole thing of like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you've reached your unit cap, and then you're like, well, what if I put attack dogs on everybody? And then it's like, oh yeah, you can double your unit cap. That's fine. Alright. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because I do have to go, grab the kiddos in a little bit. Lord, obvious elite tier, like, that's not even a question. Not as good as, you know, the Lich or the Patriarch, but we'll put them up there. Battle Brothers whoop my butt, that's the point. That is the point. Songstress? I found the Songstress pretty reliable. I've seen some folks saying they're really bad, but just the AoE musical instrument finishers, you could potentially get half the dang fight running regeneration for ridiculous amounts of health. Like, I found them really, really reliable, personally. Let's see, it's hard for Swordmasters to create a scenario where they make a significant difference. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, they combine really well with the Lich, as somebody was pointing out, but, like, their actual fighting ability is so oddly specific it hurts. AoE regen alone makes it dependable. Oh yeah, and especially you get Sonnet off the Commencia or whatever else on first round. It's insane, especially if it rolls the double duration. Vartan, I'm gonna put as good, but like they've good movement, good item access, good buff on them. But at the same time, Canopus is making an unusually good case for them. Their damage falls off significantly after Chapter 4. So Josh, weirdly enough, I've had an opposite thing on occasionally just setting them on AI. They have gone on an absolute tear throughout the entire thing. The trick is just having some kind of healers to support them. So, okay, this time I'm going to put Shamans under... See, I want to put them here, if we're being completely honest, but we're going to put them under fun and effective, because sometimes it's fun to just watch things fly at other things. Downside with Shamans is that they're really not top tier at all. They're, again, Valkyrie does the same damage, and they can just walk up to make up for the range. They can, like, Valkyrie ends up outdoing them in terms of damage overall, because they don't need any downtime. shamans attack from long range, and they hit a bunch of times, and then they burn out, and then they die. Like, they're a flash in the pan. Reddit loses its mind, but I agree 100%. Well, thank you. Varden still has highest movement penalty? Yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely does. Divine Knight Body Snatch Pumpkin Songstress is the best support unit. I can believe that. Interestingly enough, they will actually use a lot of their songs as songs themselves, but they will refuse to use the songs on the instruments if they're on AI. It's just a weird thing. Wizard / Enchantress, good and effective. They do the speed casting thing fantastically. Beast Tamers, I would say... we'll say good, but just like that. They do okay damage. They got the Lobber thing. They got the Beast Taming thing. They're not spectacular, but they'll do the job well enough. They have just good enough access to make it work. Familiars, fun and effective for sure. Definitely one of my favorites to use. Dark Priest, frickin' elite. Their AoEs are disgusting. They just melt stuff. Other dragons in general, I would say dependable, just because you can put dragon scale on them and never have to worry about a thing again. Lingering Kiss, though, I mean, everything about them is just fun and effective. It's what the entire class is built around. Let's see, what are these ones? Juggernauts, fun and effective. They just move around so fast, they're just a joy. We're going to put them under dependable, actually. They're very fast moving, they're decently bulky because they're lizards, they hit hard. They're just fun. You don't have to worry about them. They have one loadout. They're just nice. The Seattle for Shamans and Valkyries, they can always hang back and reach. I mean, they can, or they can just hang out in the middle and just not get targeted by anything. It's just, Valkyries get access to the endgame elemental armors, which basically give you the ability to tailor your armor against anything, meaning that you can basically make sure they never get targeted. It's you don't even have to worry about range when it's not even interested in you. Zigam tries to stay next to my archer for Eagle Eye Petrified Dart. Oh yeah, that stuff is really good. I forgot about how good the darts are. Okay, fine, we'll put them up to fun and effective. Archers, I've already made my piece on this. They're so good in the end game. They're tricky in the early game. They've got options in the mid game, but if you use them right, they are the damage multiplier. End of story. If used right, they're disgusting. But again, it's just a matter of actually like targeting them in the right situations. Absolutely love them. All right, next up, Hoplites, definitely dependable, just nice, solid frontliner, not terribly sexy. Crossbow and shield, very solid on them. Cupid bow and eagle eye carried me hard. Yeah, that too. Let's see, hyped for Fire Emblem Engage. I've seen a little bit of that, I'll be honest. Fire Emblem has been bouncing off for me since Awakening. I love watching challenge runs of it, just not really my my cup of tea anymore. Like FE 7 and 8, loved those, but like it got too anime after a while for me. If used right, it sounds like good, but that's the thing. They technically have the highest potential hit in the game, but that's the thing. Like, if you're targeting them for specific things, they are fantastic. It's just a matter of their general purpose requires an understanding of their mechanics. So as far as I'm concerned, fantastically up there. Let's see. Definitely brought an archer to Sam Bronze knowing she'd do 1 damage, but that she'd charm every single unit. See, like, that's the thing. You got guaranteed mind control, you got guaranteed stun early, and then they can quintuple damage after you find a way to make their damage number land to higher than anything else. Again, you saw the video the other day of just an out-of-the-box Vice one-shotting frickin' Knight Commanders. Like, it's insane. And then finally, Princess is absolutely, you know, in the elite there as well. Actually, we have to move one of them down, I guess. Okay, we'll move archers down to dependable. Fine. So that it's a nice, clean, cozy list there with nothing going extra, okay? All right. Okay, anyway, so time-wise, that's all I got time for today. Oh yeah, guaranteed silence as well. Like, they're just that good. In fact, I'm almost tempted to bring down Ozma to bring archers back up. Oh, but she's also really good. Okay. What about this? Yeah, I like that. All right, anyway, we'll leave that there. I got to get going. That's all I got time for today. Thank you guys for stopping by. Really appreciate it. And, all right, I'll see you in the next